The freedoms we have as Americans were guaranteed on this night in 1787, when Virginia became the necessary state to ratify the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. You see, when the Constitution was passed, most people loved the idea, but some, such as George Mason, thought America's freedom should be spelled out. But when a new nation gets off the ground, changing the Constitution is the last thing on anybody's mind. So eventually, more than 2 years later, James Madison wrote 10 amendments to the Constitution. When the 150th anniversary of December 15, 1787 was approaching, President Roosevelt went to CBS Radio and asked the greatest radio writer of the time, Norman Corwin, to put together a 1-hour show to honor the Bill of Rights. FDR said he would speak at the end. Corwin wrote an incredible broadcast that made the Bill of Rights actually understandable. He met with FDR in Washington, then went back to New York to complete his obligations with CBS, and in early December, just a week before the show was to be aired, he headed to Hollywood by train. Along the way, he sent telegrams to Marjorie Main, Edward Arnold, Orson Welles, Lionel Barrymore, Walter Houston, Edward G. Robinson, and others, asking them to take part in the show and not charge anything. Corwin was halfway to L.A. when a porter on the train told him Pearl Harbor had been attacked. Norman Corwin realized the show he was writing had to be something special. It would air just a week after America went to war. His job was horrifyingly simple: create a 1-hour radio show that would inspire America to win that war. But who would narrate it? He thought about great patriotic movies, and then Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Jimmy Stewart was the only choice. Stewart said yes. So on this date in 1941, with Pearl Harbor still in the headlines, on all the radio networks, simultaneously, Norman Corwin's We Hold These Truths, with original music by Bernard Herrmann, was presented live. Jimmy Stewart was at his best.
Article 1, Section 1. All legislative...
The words are dim, but not the meaning of the words. The pens that put this down are dust, but not the marks they made. There was a time when this was shining parchment, when the text was easier to read, when the ink was not yet dry. Suppose that we...
Corwin's descriptive words told of a time when, even though a war had ended, no one was sure exactly what to do next.
The farmers and the clerks and the hackmen and the artisans and the grease-grimed blacksmiths in their shops. These men who only lately put away their guns and powder in a good dry place. These men who won a war of freedom, but who know that freedom must be guarded to be kept. And they're suspicious.
At one point, Orson Welles, reading Corwin's words, tells of how Americans were guaranteed that no more evil forces from within or without would take their freedoms.
The Congress of the 13 states, instructed by the people of the 13 states, drew up the bulwark, wrote a hope, and made a sign for their posterity against the bigots, the fanatics, bullies, lynchers, race haters, the cruel men, the spiteful men, the sneaking men. The Congress wrote a 10-part epic.
Noted actors such as Walter Brennan were on the broadcast.
The rights of the people to be secure in their persons, homes, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures.
Salty actress Marjorie Main played a tender role of a Revolutionary War widow taking flowers to her husband's grave.
I brought you these, Robert. I grew them myself inside the house. Don't smell much, but they're awful pretty. Guess you don't have to worry anymore, Robert. Looks like it's going to be all right. Guess you can rest in peace now.
And there was Edward G. Robinson.
I'm in jail tonight, but I'm joining in your celebration and cheering as hard as anybody else.
Well, if you don't mind my asking,
Trumped-up charge. The old routine in the city. It's only the crooks and the frightened little big shots who need to shut up their opponents. That may work all right in some other countries, but not here.
Yeah, well, how are you going to beat him?
Well, there's such things as rights on our side.
Through it all, Jimmy Stewart made talking about the Bill of Rights fun.
Although that's Amendment 7, that makes us wonder.
Amendment 7. In suits at common law where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial shall be preserved.
Except for that, not like a lawyer's brief at all, but mostly like a kind of a freestyle ode to liberty. The writing's fresh, the meaning's clear. Parchment gleams in the December sunlight like a burnished shield upraised against oppression.
This night, in 1941.
From the east, from west, from north, from south.
It was one of the greatest broadcasts in the history of radio. But there would be one better, the one that aired on VE Day, the end of the war in Europe. It, too, written by Norman Corwin. I'm Dennis Daly.